I scored some of my lowest figures there. So the first mock I gave, I got 130 marks, 7 marks in MCQ, and I did my IPMAT prep from ACE IPM, and I got AIR 6. Hi, so I'm Aryan Jain. I'm from Mumbai, and I did my 11th and 12th from a commerce background. I got 96.5% in my 10th grade and 94.5% in my 12th grade. I did my IPMAT prep from ACE IPM, and I got AIR 6. My score in the written aptitude test was 274. Right, so I chose IPM first and foremost because of the very interesting curriculum they had with the broad plethora of subjects. Of course, what played also an important role was the prestige of the institution, as I am Indore, and ultimately the placements too. Right, so as to the preparation for the QA section, one of my major resources to study from were the conceptual lectures that are there on the portal. I did not pay as much attention to live lectures because I thought it did not match well with my pace. So I used to watch the conceptual lectures, do the quizzes afterwards, do the practice sheets, and if I had any doubts or if there was anything extra covered in the live lectures, I used to watch the recordings because I felt the pace did not match with me. Sometimes it was too fast, sometimes it was too slow. But the conceptual lectures were an excellent resource to study. Right. So for VA, one of my major things to do was reading. I love reading. I loved reading already, so I had a lot of exposure to books. So rather than solving for a major part of my preparation time, I just used to read as a hobby. After which I started solving and found out what points needed improvement. So certain aspects of subject verb agreement or certain aspects about how to solve some deeper questions based on the RCs that I practiced from the question sets, which was enough practice for me for the VA section. Right, so as to the boards preparation along with my IPMAT prep, one of the advantages I had that I was in the state board, so my boards finished earlier. It finished approximately 2 months earlier than the IPMAT date, which was also postponed a bit this year. Apart from that, I had also started preparing for IPMAT midway through my 11th grade. So I had quite a lot of time for preparation where I had cleared my concepts and practiced a bit. After which, during my boards time, so a month or a month and a half prior to my board, I completely stopped with my IPMAT prep because I thought I wanted to focus on my boards too. Hadn't done much throughout my 12th grade. And then after the boards finished, after I was done with my exams, I switched gears and came back to the IPMAT prep, for which I had a bit of a time. And yeah, it worked out pretty well. Right, so coming to the mocks part of my preparation, I did not majorly do any mocks till the very last leg of my preparation. I was trying to focus more on the concepts, which put me at a disadvantage at some point because I was not able to solve that well in the beginning. But taking advice from Saksham Bhaiya and others, I did a lot of the mocks during the last leg of my preparation. So all the mocks that were there on the portal and the old mocks amounting to somewhere near 40 odd mocks. That was my time I devoted to mock solving. As to how my journey throughout the mocks went, so right after my boards, I started giving mocks, and since there was a break in my practice, I scored some of my lowest figures there. So the first mock I gave, I got 130 marks, 7 marks in MCQ, and I think to an extent that was what pushed me to do better. So seeing what I did wrong in the mock, seeing where I could do better, seeing where I spent more time, analyzing all that, trying to work on my mistakes, and just practicing more and more. That's what led to an improvement throughout the journey of my mocks preparation. And there are some strategies which I followed throughout the 3 sections, which I modified, honed as to what I was more comfortable with, and that did work out for me. So for the QA section, I believe there was enough time because there were 40 minutes for 20 or 15 questions depending on the format of the mock. So there I had enough time. So there I wasn't very careful with my time. I was okay if I spent a bit more time on a question if I was sure I would be able to solve it. So there I was a bit more frivolous with my time, and my strategy basically was to go question wise, see if I could solve it within a minute. If not, come back and spend all the time that I had over there. Moving on to the MCQ section, there were certain topics I wasn't very comfortable with, such as trigonometry. So seeing those topics, I used to leave the question altogether and come back to it at the very end. Apart from that, I just solved as fast as I could. If I could not solve the question, I left it. one of the things I experimented with was starting with the LIDR section. Finally, I did not go through with it because sometimes it took a lot of time, sometimes it was done really well, and that was not a gamble I was willing to take. But if the LIDR section went well, it definitely helped solve efficiently and more faster. So that is one of the strategies some of you could try for. As to the VA section, again, the VA section was something that could be solved really quickly apart from the RCs because it was all grammar. So I spent a lot of time on the RCs, after which the grammar was really quick. And as to the parajumbles, I was really confused about it, so I ended up not attempting most of them because I usually got them wrong. So my strategy with the parajumbles was attempting them only and only if I'm very sure, and not guessing more than one. And I guess, yeah, that worked with me. So coming to the final day of the exam, our exam was in the afternoon, so we had the whole morning to overthink about it, which I definitely did. My parents were really supportive about it. They were really confident. They were supportive. And going to the exam hall, I was really nervous about how it would go because I had done a lot of prep and I wanted to do well. When the exam started, the first section was the QA short answer. And I found the first few questions really tough. So that kind of messed with my composure since I was like, I wasn't able to solve some of the questions. And the whole QA section as a whole seemed a bit tougher to me. So I was worried about that in the beginning, but then as soon as the section ended, I realized that the section was gone. I couldn't do anything about it, and I focused on the next section. After coming out of the exam hall again, I was really nervous because my QA section didn't go well. But then seeing the reactions of the other people, seeing the reactions of my friends, I realized that the QA section was indeed tough and relatively I had done somewhat better. So that kind of calmed me. But yeah, I think what one has to do is keep calm and just keep solving. So ASIPM really played a pivotal role in my preparation. One of the things that helped a lot were the conceptual lectures and the short tricks that were introduced. So the conceptual lectures worked in a way to clear your concepts first and then have short trick towards it. So even if there were slight modifications in the concept, you could work with it, which I found really helpful because using other online resources, YouTube lectures, etc., they didn't provide the same amount of conceptual clarity or the same efficient short tricks. So the short tricks and the conceptual clarity in the QA section was what definitely provided a edge to me. Along with that, the lot of practice that was provided. So be it practice sheets topic wise or section wise or however, there were a lot of questions for us to practice, which really helped me improve my speed. Coming to the VA part, there were a lot of RCs with Saksham Bhaiya giving tips as to how to deal with language, how to deal with parajumbles. That definitely helped me too. The interview prep was another thing that was really helpful since we had seniors and mentors from IIM Indore IPM program itself, and they could really provide an insight as to how we should better ourselves, how we should present ourselves, how we should present our answers, and so on and so forth. So that was something that really pushed me through, and the mock interviews were really helpful in preparing for the interview. So the day of the interview, we had our interviews online, and as a result, we had to be in the waiting rooms for at least an hour. I myself stayed in the waiting room for an hour before beginning the interview. And as soon as I started the interview, they asked me about my introduction, and I did not realize it, and I started speaking while I was on mute. So that definitely messed me up a bit. After which the interview actually went well. They asked me about a lot of the extracurriculars, going into depth about what I did, why I did, and so on and so forth. After which came the academics. So they really grilled me on the academics, and academics was not a very strong point for me. I was hoping more for a GK oriented interview. So as a result, I was not able to answer most of the academic questions. But I think what helped me was I managed to stay calm, managed not to get flustered during that time, and tried solving the questions to the best of my abilities, tried logically going somewhere with the questions, and I think that led me somewhere. So the ACAD part of the interview was really grilling. They asked me a lot of questions, going in depth about various concepts, asking why I did not know certain concepts or certain formulae. But I think in the end, I was able to maintain my calm, and that worked out for me. Right, coming to those who are preparing for the IPMAT exam right now, one thing I would say is utilize your time well. because I had a lot of time to prepare for the exam, and as a result, at times I did not have the discipline of studying every day or studying consistently. So that was something that did not work well for me. But yeah, I think one of the most important things to do is to work well, to have a structure for what you want to do, and have your concepts clear.
So now, how can we get you started? Go to asaipm.com. Over here, you will see the free counseling button. Click on that, enter your details, and a future senior of yours from IIM is going to give you a call, and you can get all your doubts clarified from them.